My name is Gavin Evans, and this is my review of Tomb Raider's story, and this will be a spoiler-filled review, so if you haven't played the game, go ahead and play it, then come back and watch my review because I will be going in depth. And I did end up enjoying this game, but the two weakest elements were easily the story and characters. And I kind of had a sense of that immediately at the start, because this game doesn't set up anything at all. It doesn't tell you who these people are, where they are, why they're there, or anything. So they keep all the characters, motivations, and just all the information you need vague. And because of that, you don't immediately get on board with the characters. The only reason why you're rooting for Lara Croft is because she's in a situation where she could be killed. Why not spend the first 5 minutes or something with these characters on the boat just before they shipwreck? So we can gain some sense of who they are, what their relationships to each other are, and then that way we care before everything goes south, and then the boat being shipwrecked could be the first bit of gameplay. That to me is much stronger, because the way it starts off feels really rushed, feels really messy, it undercuts lots of what they're trying to do. Like, they don't set up the character of Lara Croft at all. If you haven't played the other games or seen the movies, then you just have no reason to care for her, because she is as bland of a character as they get. Like, we do eventually see some recordings of her talking about her dad or something along those lines, but it's far too late into the story, and to be honest, those moments I found to be really boring, and I kind of zoned out for them. There weren't gripping moments. Like, she's trying to survive, she's fighting for her life, and she just decides to watch some recordings every now and again. It just takes you out of the plot, and it completely halts the pacing, and like I said, it feels like they're playing catch up much too late into the story. So that's why you do the legwork at the start of it. But anyways, you get onto the island, you immediately get captured by people, you don't know who they are or why they are, and because it happens at the start, it just lacks any sort of weight. You aren't like, oh my god, she got captured. You're just like, I guess this is how we're beginning the game. And you immediately escape anyways. So then you start running around the island and you reunite with the other survivors. And it's just so unsatisfying because I don't know who these people are. I don't know what the relationships to each other are. And no one acts surprised that she's alive. Like, throughout the game, they're always like, oh, Lara, you're still alive. And they act shocked then. But for this very first moment where they all reunite, they're not like, oh my god, you're okay. They're just like, oh, hey Lara, what's up? You're here. Very little emotion behind it. It would have had some sort of weight if they thought she died, but no. And then the game progresses, and there's just no real story present throughout. You wander around the island and encounter enemies, and that's it. They find some sort of convoluted nonsense to keep you fighting, to keep you on the island, but none of it really works, none of it stays with you. And you don't really feel the survival aspect of the island. Like, there's this one moment where Lara Croft steps in a bear trap, but it lacks any sort of weight because she's immediately okay afterwards. Like, this trap that dug right into your leg doesn't seem to affect her all that much. I'm gonna do what I always do, but I'm gonna go ahead and compare this game to Last of Us Part 2 for just a second, because there's one moment near the end of that game where Ellie gets stabbed, and it's not an injury that just goes away. From that point forward, whenever she's running or anything, she's got her arms on the wound, she's slowing down, she's looking worse and worse, and you can just see the effect that injury is having on her, and you don't get any of that in this game. When you get introduced to the villain though, it lacks any sort of impact. Like, you've got a feeling that he's a villain because he's just got that clear villain presence to him, but he's just like, oh, I'm a survivor, and I'm just like, okay, I believe him. Why wouldn't I? When he says he's a survivor, I don't even know if he means their shipwreck or another shipwreck, because you don't set up the characters ahead of time. So yes, a very lacking villain introduction, and then you're trying to get this plane to rescue you, and then the course of the storm just happens randomly, destroying the plane, just so it can create a great action sequence. And to be fair, the action sequence it creates is a lot of fun, but it does feel like a contrived attempt to bring about an action sequence. But then we find out that Sam's been kidnapped, and I'm like, who? Who's Sam? I don't care because we've spent no time with Sam. We get told that Sam is Laura's friend, but I never see that. I never feel that. I never feel some sort of bond between them. And then at an eventual point, you get kidnapped again, and you wake up again, tied up again, hung upside down again, in a cave again, and I'm just like, this literally feels like a repeat of the very first scene in the game. Like, if you're gonna go ahead and do this, do something to make this experience feel different. There's a later point in the game where she's sitting on the edge of a bridge. She just took out some guys, and then this big guy sees that she's sitting on the edge, and instead of just pushing her off the bridge, certainly killing her, he grabs her and pulls her back. Like, dude, you had your chance there. So I thought that was frustrating. And there's two characters in this game called Grim and Worth, who end up sacrificing themselves so Laura can live. And those death scenes lacked any sort of impact because I couldn't have cared less about these two characters. I had no sense of who they were, and because of that, you rid the game of any emotional impact those moments could have. And then there's this one guy named Whitmore who is so obviously evil. Like, as soon as you see him, you're just like, oh yeah, he's going to be the one that betrays everyone, that backstabs everyone. And you see it coming from a mile away. There's even a point where it becomes clear that Laura thinks he's a traitor as well, but she does nothing about it and just leaves him hanging out with the other crewmates. So I thought that was a really odd scene. But anyways, when he turns bad, it lacks any sort of emotional weight because, once again, I don't know who this person is and why I should care. If I had some sort of a relationship between him and Laura, then maybe it would have weight. But it didn't, so it doesn't. And not just that, after he turns bad, we don't even encounter him again. So you don't even get any of that emotional payoff to being like, you betrayed us, how could you, and them fighting about it. But no, you don't even get that. He just gets killed by some random people. So that was very underwhelming. But anyways, this whole dead soul causes a storm and how the Sun Queen's trying to possess Sam, yeah, that all felt like it came out of left field for me. Like, there's some minor conversations about it throughout, but nothing that feels really important. Like, throughout the game, it makes it clear that they're trying to get off the island. They're trying to get the crew and get off the island. And then this whole mystery element of, how did we crash onto this island? What's going on with it? It's this dead Sun Queen and how she causes storms in the area. And none of that worked for me. None of it. When it became a big plot point in the last act, I'm just like, oh, I guess we're doing this now. Okay. It's just not properly set up to. Like, if you look at Uncharted 1 and Uncharted 2, the way that they set up the supernatural elements throughout is just handled masterfully. And compared to this, it's just a big old bogged down mess. And you get that sense. There was this big boss who's hinted at earlier in the game, and you don't really see him again till the end of the game. And you're crossing this bridge and you're about to fight him. But then the wind causes some pallets to hit him, and you're just like, oh, I guess he died. And he comes back later on for the last final boss, but just the way that character, I say that very hesitantly, was handled, was truly quite awful. Like, who is this besides some big scary dude? Well, why do I care? And the end is just a complete mess. Throughout it, I'm just like, who's Macias again? Why is he doing this? What's his motivation? Who's Sam again? Why did they pick Sam to be the new Sun Queen or whatever? Like, the lore just isn't established. I had zero investment in what was going on. And then they defeat them, and just like that, they can get off the island again, they get on the boat, and they sail away, no problems. That seemed awfully easy. Like, I haven't played Rise of the Tomb Raider yet, but what if they were on the way to the adventure that's in that game, and on the way, they shipwrecked onto this island, they're trying to survive, and then they find out there are these other people on the island who want to do this ritual, And it just escalates to zero. But trying to make it seem like they were after the mystery all this time just never worked for me. Like when you don't set up the characters at the start, you're left wondering what motivates them. Why are they doing the things that they do? What is the story here? What's the clear goal? What is the character arc? And by the end, I still don't have a sense of what any of that's supposed to be. Like this is supposed to be Lara Croft's origin story. And by the end, I feel like she's the exact same person she was at the beginning of this game. You don't feel like anything's been accomplished. And when you don't have that, you don't care about any of the characters, the game lacks any sort of rate, and the story just feels like it's getting made up on the spot, and that's exactly the case with this game. I already mentioned Last of Us 2 this review, but I'll mention it one more time because it is the best video game story ever, and it's a story that every game should take notes from. You understand why the characters are doing what they're doing. The motivation is clear. You're on board with it. And you understand them. Every action, no matter how much you may disagree with it, you understand why they're doing what they're doing. And because of that, it just has so much weight. You're much more invested in it. And by the end, you have a true understanding of how far these characters have come. And some people give excuses to video game stories for not being that good, but when you get stories like Last of Us 1 and 2 and Uncharted 4, I start to feel that it feels like almost every other studio but Naughty Dog is just lazy in that department. But yes, I did have fun with this game. I recommend it, but the story and characters are just awful. Awful. But yes, have you played Tomb Raider though? What did you think about it? Let me know in the comments down below. Make sure you like, make sure you comment, make sure you subscribe. Stay tuned for some more videos soon, and Gavin out.